So if you decide you although what was the focus of everything? Did he say, "Oh, this is great. I can now go down to the synagogue or the temple and help out down there. I can maybe help the poor a little bit. Other people who don't know how to run uh, a farm, I can help them to be prosperous." Did he say any of that? No, it was all about him. And our goal and our role in life as believers in Christ should be we're going to reach out and help other people. It's other focused. And that'll be a central theme for what we do here today. Psalms 24:1 is, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein." Who owns everything? God owns everything, and we have been given responsibility for certain things during our lifetime to manage those for His honor and for His glory. And so we need to do it in the wisest way possible. Part of that is understanding what our responsibilities are. Grant Howard, in his book, Balancing Life Demands, he indicated these are the areas in order that we really need to put our priorities. Number one is if our priority is on God, then that influences the way that we interact with our spouse. So we love God. We follow God's instructions. That impacts how we address our spouse. We're not so selfish, but we are giving of ourselves to our spouse. Number two, if we and our spouse are together, then that helps us in raising our children. And sometimes this gets out of sync. Sometimes children go above their spouse, and that creates all kinds of problems. So if we are together as a couple, managing our children in such a way that we're in agreement, children feel that, and they have a greater security. Then comes our employment. And if our priority is our family, then that impacts how much time we spend working and maybe even the kind of job that we have so that we can spend time with our children. And then if we have our act together with our family and our job, then we can do ministry. But if our ministry comes before our family or our ministry comes before our employment, things get out of sync. So we really need to be in sync as far as things are concerned. And our desire to have lots of possessions or a certain lifestyle will be impacted by the priorities that we establish for ourselves. There's also, I'm going to ask this, how many people here are single? One. Okay. So just to help me out because I'm slow, how many people are married? Okay, there's, it looks like it's pretty even up. Okay, one of the things that I'll try to do, because I do have some slides in here that talk about how we as couples should converse about personal finance. I'll try to be respectful and assume that someday you might get married, and then this is insightful for you. But before we get married, when we're single, all the decisions that we make, who do they impact? They impact us, right? So if we make some bad decisions, that's on us. But once we get married, then they impact our spouse and our children. Okay? So it's important for us to keep that in mind as we are looking at our finances. So when it comes to marriage, what are the major reasons for family arguments? Those of you who are single know because you had a mom and dad. What do you think those things are? Major reasons for family arguments. Somebody help me out. Money, okay, that's we're at a financial seminar, so that makes sense. There's three others. What do you think the other three are? Yes, children, that's one of them. Another? Okay. You're right, in-laws. Yes, indeed, in-laws are exactly one. And then the other one is sex. But we won't mention that here, okay, because we're in a church. But those are the major reasons for arguments. And one of the things that we can do when it comes to working with our spouse is, there's a chair here. It's there for us to think about sitting in their seat and looking at the world from their perspective. How do they see finances? We each have different personalities. And if somebody's quite flamboyant and spontaneous, they may spend their money a lot differently than if they are married to somebody who's very conservative. So as we're putting together our budget, which is a very important aspect to having good personal finance, we need to keep in mind they have a different personality. Another is background. If every year you and your family rent a villa in the south of France, you put a couple of $1,000s a month away so that you can do that, and as a group you go and you have a fabulous August every year, and then you marry somebody who, for their vacation, let's go camping, it'll cost us like, what does it cost to camp? $30 to go camping. It's all we're going to do is take some food out of the refrigerator, put it in our backpack, and we're on our way. Those two people get married, and then it comes time to make decisions about finances. There's probably going to be some conflict. So we need to be thinking about sitting and looking at the world from their perspective. And the other is goals. What are the goals that we have for one another? It might be that we just want to get out of debt. Or it might be that we want to move into a certain community within our neighborhood. So we need to start saving to be able to do that. Or it could be we have a hobby and we want to be the best at that. You're an archer and you want to be the best archer, so you're going to go to all kinds of archery tournaments, and that's your focus, that's your goal. So we need to know what these are with our spouse and appreciate those about our spouse as we're making financial decisions. Also, when it comes to talking about finances with our spouse, we need to be direct. He says, all right, we're spending $100 a week on food. Come on. Let's cut this back so that we don't have to spend so much. And she's going, or the other person is going, well, wait a minute, you don't want to have hot dogs every night. So we're going to have to spend the $100. But be direct. Oh, and by the way, I want to share with you, one of the best dates, a cheap date. Is there a Costco around here? No. I take my wife to Costco all the time. You can get a hot dog for $1.50 and a free drink. It's a great date. Okay. And all the samples, you go from row to row and get the samples. It's great. So we need to be direct in our conversation with our spouse about how we feel about things. And we need to be transparent, open, and say, one of the things that girls do is they hint to us guys, and we're supposed to get it. I'm here to tell you, we're not going to get it. It doesn't work that way. Don't hint to us. Tell us specifically, this is how it is, so that we know, and then we can discuss it. And then number 3 is when we're making our decisions about finances and we're talking about, we need to be in unity one with another. If we can't reach agreement, then, we can follow this slide. What if we don't agree on our budget with the first thing? Well, what we can do is we can look at the expenses that we can agree on first. We know what our car payment is, what our mortgage or our rental payment is going to be. We know what our life insurance payment's going to. There's certain payments that we know we're going to have to make. So we write those down and we agree on them. Then secondly, we express our opinion without interruption, or we let them express their opinion and just sit there and listen. This game of yes, but, where they're trying to talk, that doesn't solve anything. We want to listen to them, let them finish, and then we can tell them how it really is. Oh, and then it's their turn to come back and share with us. But we share without interrupting one another. And then to do it in a timely manner. Sometimes we'll put together a budget and we'll say, we disagree on this and on this and on this. Okay, maybe it's time for us to just set it aside, let it sit there for a few days, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. And what that does is it gives us an opportunity to think it through ourselves and them to think it through themselves too. And then we can come back together and maybe we'll both be a little bit softer as we're talking about. This morning I talked about the little known secret to success in marriage. What was that secret? Selflessness. Selflessly giving of ourselves to the benefit of the person. Marriage isn't about what I can get out of it. It's what I can do to help you to thrive as a child of God. Okay, so I even made a slide on it. So as we're putting together our finances and trying to figure it out, our emphasis really needs to be, what can I do to be of assistance to you? Larry Burkett, in this book, What the Bible Says About Money, he indicates that 1 out of every 7 verses in the New Testament have to do with finances, and every 1 out of 6 verses in the Old Testament has to do with finances, values, possessions, those sort of things. 5 times is more said about money than about prayer. Now let's say he's wrong. Let's say he's 100% wrong. Instead of 5 times more, it's half that, I guess. Okay, and as far as the number of verses, it would be 1 out of 14 verses or 1 out of 6 verses in the Old Testament. The fact is, there's a lot that the Bible teaches us about finances, and we need to be alert to that, because if it's important to God, it should be important to us as well. 1 Timothy 6:10 says, money is the root of all evil, right? So why are we talking? What are you shaking your head for? Oh, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Any root. The fact is, money puts us on the line as far as what really is important to us. So we need to keep that in mind and look at what are the things that I'm wanting to spend my money on. Is it good and it's healthy? Is it invigorating to my family, or is it not? And then make wise decisions with that in mind. Now, there's also the whole thing of, I deserve a certain lifestyle. This is the lifestyle I feel that I deserve. But let's read this. Proverbs 38:9. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is needful for me. Lest I be full and deny you and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and so profane the name of my Lord. So our prayer needs to be, don't give me so much that I forget about you. And don't give me so little that I am resentful of you. But give me what you think is appropriate for me. That should be our prayer. And at different people at different times in life, we will have a lot of money, or we will be struggling. But our prayer needs to be, Lord, put me in this situation so that you know that I will be growing through this. And sometimes it's tough. It's really tough. We find that we have too much on our credit card, we're drowning in debt, and we have all these pressures, and it's causing tension in our life. Well, then we maybe need to adjust our lifestyle such that that helps that to go away. In Philippians, Paul says, now, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned that in whatever situation I'm to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstances, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. So he's saying, I'm learning to be content. If right now we're in a difficult financial situation, we need to feel content that the Lord's going to help us get through this. The Lord doesn't always say, I'll get you out of a situation, but he does always say, I'll be there for you. So to be content and say, all right, we're going to try to make the wisest decisions that we can right now so that we can put ourselves in the lifestyle that's appropriate for us. And it's so easy for us to, be watching television, and on television they say, oh, you deserve, and there's all these things that we supposedly deserve, maybe not. When I was a kid, I remember that the school that my father was attending was going to take some pictures of us for the yearbook. So my parents had me go over to the landlord's house and borrow some cereal boxes and bring them over for the photograph because we couldn't afford cereal. We were too poor to afford cereal. Okay, now most people don't think cereal's a big deal to have to own. Eggs maybe, but not cereal. Okay. There's different levels of expectations that we have. And right now in our culture, we think we deserve so much more than the rest of the world. We have such luxuries as running water, toilets that flush, houses that keep us out of the rain. A lot of the world does not have that. We expect that. Some of the people in the rest of the world heard about a missionary who was ministering to somebody. He was so proud that he had a tin roof. Okay, it wasn't thatch, it was tin. I have a tin roof. Okay, probably if that's what we had, we would be really upset that we were living in a rundown place with no water and just a tin roof. So our expectations are maybe higher than they should be, maybe not. But we have to think through that and say, Lord, help me to be in the kind of situation that you would like for me to be. So the question is, what are we trying to accomplish with our lives and with our monies? One is, should we have one income or two? What's appropriate for us? If you want to be a stay-at-home dad, then do you have the right to be a stay-at-home dad and let mom go and work? Maybe, maybe not. But as a couple, we need to talk through this. What kind of income and what will the impact be if we are both working and we have 6 kids at home? Well, fortunately, we have a nanny, right? So we don't have to worry about that. But we have to think about the implications of how many of us are working and how many hours are we going to be working. The number of hours that leaves for us to spend with our church and our family and what our lifestyle is. A few years ago, when I was in the young couples class at the church that we were attending, one of the people in our class, his name's David Burnham, was working for an accounting firm. And he was moving up the corporate ladder and doing great. And then one day, he abruptly walked into our class and said, we're moving to Maine. And we all said, why are you moving to Maine? He says, I'm going to become controller of a small company. We said, David, you're on your way up the corporate ladder. He said, yeah, but I looked around and I saw that everybody who's a partner has been divorced at least once, maybe twice. I'm working so that I can get money to take care of my family. That's the priority for me. So my job is secondary and my family is first. So it all had to do with priorities. So as we're trying to think through what our lifestyle should be, if it's causing a lot of stress for us, then maybe we need to change our lifestyle just a little bit. There's a thing that's called gap analysis, and I spoke a little bit this morning about a young lady who was living in a car, and she set a goal, and then she followed through an action plan, and she was able to reach her goal. We can each do that. Our goal is, what's the lifestyle that we think God would have in mind for us? I have these different houses, kind of to reflect different kinds of lifestyles. One of my best friends says, I want the little cabin. I want to retire and live in the little cabin. He's a pastor of pastoral care at a large church. I think he just wants to get away from it all. But we want to set, what is our goal, all right? Where are we headed? Where do we want to be in 5 years? Do we want to be retired? Do we want to be able to move into a home? What does that look like? And then we analyze our current situation. Let's say we want to be able to live, what's the upscale area here? What's the upscale area in North Bend, Coos Bay. Telegraph Hill. Okay. I want to move to Telegraph Hill. Therefore, what does a house cost in Telegraph Hill? $500,000. I need to come up with $500,000. Okay, in order to buy that house for $500,000, that means I have to save 20% and put 20% down. Okay, so that can be our goal. In 5 years, we want to be able to get the down payment so that we can move to Telegraph Hill. I hear a song coming on. Telegraph Hill. Okay, so we analyze our current situation, and we're working at a fast food place for $6 an hour. Chances are that's not going to allow us to get the 20% down. So we probably need to make some changes. So we can talk through what are the changes that we need to do, and then make a plan of action to help us to be able to reach that goal. To me, that's just being responsible with the resources that we have and making sure that we have appropriate goals for the future. So what is our role in all this? Matthew 25:14 through 30. The Lord's given us, each of us, talents and abilities. We need to take those and utilize them in such a way that they bring Him honor, and that we take the finances that He has entrusted to us and manage them in a way that keeps us moving forward. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established." So as we sit down and we make our plans for the future, we put together a realistic, workable budget for now, then we can pray over it. Have a conversation with the Lord. Remember, the chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. That means we are talking with Him. So part of what we do is we pray with Him about practical things such as our budget and say, Lord, is this realistic? Is this what you have in mind for me? And go from there. Also, in scriptures, it talks about how to deal with the advice that people give us. Now, usually when I do my little presentation, it's to young couples that are just getting married. And so I say, how many people here have in-laws? And of course, everybody raises their hands. And I say, well, your in-laws have some insights for you, don't they? And they go, oh, yeah. They have all kinds of advice for us. And so my advice for them is, listen to the advice of other people. And you also have friends who have financial advice. Listen to what they have to say. And then, as you're contemplating it, say, thank you so very much for your advice. I may not take your advice, but we're going to think about it, because we as a couple are going to be united in the decisions that we make regarding our finances. And we're not going to feel the pressure of other people outside. Okay, so yes, take advice, seek advice, but make sure that it's your plans, not the plans of somebody else. So who here can give me a definition of a budget? What is a budget? I see that hand. Pardon? Oh, you're planning your means, you're writing everything down. Anybody else? A budget. Yes. Oh, I love that. Telling your money what to do. What a very positive perspective. Sure, I have a little definition. When I first heard this, it was presented by Larry Burkett, and I just shook my head and said, no, you're wrong. His definition is freedom. My thought was, no, it's restricting me. I can't spend the money the way I want. But he said it's freedom. And he said, this is how it's freedom. It frees us from worry. If we have a budget that works for us, that means that more money comes in than goes out. Or the other way of saying that, more money can't go out than what comes in. It frees us from worry. We don't have to worry about tomorrow. We're going to be okay financially. Second, it frees us up to be able to choose. I have to get a new car. If I have to get a new car, what kind of car do I buy? Can I spend $100,000 and get a economy electric car? Or do I spend $20,000 and get an expensive one that runs on gas? Which is it going to be for me? But it gives us the ability, the knowledge to be able to make choices. And then finally, it helps us to be able to have some control over our life. If we don't know where our money's going, then how can we make any kind of decision wisely? We need to and have control over our future. So Malcolm McGregor said, "I've counseled hundreds of couples and I've never met a couple with good financial records who is in financial trouble." He also said the opposite. He says, "I've never met a couple who is in financial trouble who has good financial records." People who know how their money is coming in and how it's going out and have control over it, they tend not to have financial difficulties. So if you are having any kind of financial difficulties right now, stop and think, wait a minute, do I really know how much I'm spending in these various areas and that I feel confident that at the end of the month I'm not going to spend more than what I brought in? So having a good realistic budget is very helpful. Also, it must be our money, our debt. So the lady brings in, what's a good salary? $50,000 a year, and he brings in $30,000 a year. Okay, so they make $80,000 together. It's their money. It's not your money and my money. It's our money. That's why we're married, okay? It's ours. And sometimes there can be some discussions in families about, oh, that's your money and it's my money because I make more money than you. Therefore, I have more power in this family. No, you don't, because it all comes to the same pot. Same with the debt. You bought that big pickup truck and it's costing us a whole boatload of money. It's your truck. No, it isn't. It's both your trucks. Okay. Don't tell my wife that I said that. 3 keys for building an effective financial family budget. The answer to this is 1 Corinthians 13:5. 3 keys for building. The 3 keys are compromise is number 1. Number 2 is compromise. And number 3 is compromise. Exactly. It's not about us and what we can give, but it's our ability to be able to work out this budget that is functional for us. And you don't have to get everything you want all the time. Okay? So work with your spouse to make sure that it comes together. And I think that we emphasized this morning also, that one of the things is that we have to keep in mind is the most important things in life aren't things. So if we find ourselves fighting over finances all the time, or if we're single and we feel the stress of finances all the time, then we need to switch things up so our priorities are in the right direction. That is, our priorities would be on the things of the Lord and on relationships. Okay, insights for figuring the actual dollars of our budget. Number 1, and you do have handouts. In the handouts, there is a budget sheet. It doesn't have numbers on it, and it looks like this, okay? So how do we know how much money to put in these various areas? Well, first of all, there's certain things that we know, and I mentioned before. There's our mortgage, our car payment, our housing taxes, our life insurance, these kinds of things. So we write down all the things that we know for sure. Then we look at past experiences. We recognize that in February, it's going to cost more to heat our house than it does in May. So we want to keep that trend in mind. So as we're figuring out how much money we're going to budget for heating our home, we maybe average it out, and when we have a little extra because we didn't spend that much this month, we put it aside, having it in an envelope or in a bank account or someplace, so that when February does come and January and we spend more money, we're not in a tight place. Okay. And then the next thing is the experience of others, to have a conversation with our friends and family and say, what are some of the things that you have learned about spending? Now, this little tool right here is one of my favorite. And it's at the very beginning of your handouts. All the things that are on your budget, they are listed here on the left-hand side of the page. It shows your income, and then it shows your tithing, and then it shows monies that go into savings and all this. And if you'll notice, it has the months of the year that go across. And if we go back and we look at our financial records, then we can see how much money did we spend in each of the various areas. And then as we're trying to put together a realistic budget, we can watch for trends, and we can see what is average, and then we can realistically put in, this is how much we're spending each month in these various areas. Some safeguards to making sure that we budget the right amount of money. First of all, we budget on the high side, not on the low side. If we say, all right, we're going to put $30 a month in on heating because we don't use it that much in the summer. And then when February comes, we know it's going to be cold, but we'll just put on another sweater. And if you can see your breath, that's great because you know you're alive. It's okay. Well, when February actually comes, then somebody's going to say, we're going to crank that heater all the way up to, what's a good number? 70. Okay. I live in Arizona, and so, 70 would be really cold. All right. I played pickleball. Anybody know what pickleball is? Okay. Oh, good. Okay. I played that when it's over 110. So you drink a lot of liquid. Okay. And then you go home and take a nap. So we want to budget on the high side. That's a good thing for us, okay? So because if we budget on the high side, we'll find out that there'll be some things that we under budgeted, and we'll have to make a bit up for that. Number 2 is know where the money's going to come from. You say, hey, you know what? Aunt Molly's really sick. She's going to die, and she's going to leave me a bunch of money this year. Well, guess what? Aunt Molly's going to be around for a few more years, and she wasn't going to put you in her will anyway. So we need to know specifically, where is this money coming from? Hopefully, maybe it's from an endowment, or for investments, or from Social Security, or from your job, or from someplace, but know where your money's actually going to be coming from. I used to work for AstraZeneca, and they didn't pay a whole boatload of money, but they had huge budget bonuses at the end of the year. So I would have I'd tell my wife, we're going to get this, and we're going to get this, and we're going to get this, and she'd say, when it's in the bank, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, stop dreaming. She's really smart, okay? So if we don't have it already in hand, or we don't know specifically where it's coming from, then we don't put it in our budget. Our income must always equal our expenses, and we can't spend more. Now remember, if you think of it like a dam, you have a dam and there's water behind it. In our situation, it's money behind it. And then we open up the little gates and we let the money out and we pay our bills. Okay. If the water in the dam runs out, we can't pay the bills anymore. Okay? So we need to just kind of have that visualization as I'm making my budget. I can't spend more than I bring in. Next, we have to be willing to live within the boundaries of our budget. And sometimes that takes a psychological adjustment, because we have these credit cards and we go, oh, we didn't make it this month, so we'll just stick it on the credit card at 27% interest. Okay, that can become a nightmare real quick. And then we need to continually revise our budget. A budget is a living document. The first time you put together your budget, if it's 80% accurate, you did a great job. You're going to need to be refining it over a period of time, because we're going to find some unexpected expenses. So a budget is a plan. It's not a law. It's to work for you. You're not to work for it. Go ahead. There we go. I know of examples of people who have said, okay, this is our budget for the next 12 months. We have agreed on it. We've shook on it. We've prayed over it. We're moving forward. Well, then we get into it like 6 months later, and things kind of shift around. And all of a sudden, one person is saying, wait a minute, the price of gasoline just doubled, and you drive an hour to work. That's a budget buster for us. And they go, tough luck. The budget said we're only spending $50 a week on gas. Well, we need to be willing to adjust our budget as we move forward and agree on the adjustment that we're going to be making. So here's the budget worksheet. We kind of talk through that. And then how much money do we want to put in each of the different areas? Well, it depends on the amount of money that you make. The numbers I have here are based on some, at the top, income has to do with taxes. But if you look online at other people, if you just kind of type in how much money should go into your budget, you'll find that almost everybody comes up with very similar numbers as to what you find here in our sheet. And where are we? Right here on this particular page, okay? It just shows how much money should go in for food, how much for housing, how much for investments, how much for our car, all these different things. It shows the percentage that is recommended. The one that I get the most pushback on is housing, because it's only 35% that you put on your housing. But if you want to keep things balanced and want to keep things as stress-free as possible, these are the numbers that are good for us. Another tool, which is the next page, is called the Monthly Financial Review Plan. This is a fun little tool that helps us to know whether or not we should make adjustments in our budget or not. If you'll notice, it has, for example, the major areas of your budget, not the minor. So tithing, saving, housing, food, etc. So it's January, and you look back at how much money you spent on food, and you say, wait a minute, we spent a lot more last month on our budget on food than what we should have. What happened? Well, you're very popular. Everybody loves you. Therefore, it was December, so everybody wants to come to your house and eat your food with you because you're so wonderful. Okay, that ruined your budget. That's not going to happen in January, probably. So we're not going to make a permanent adjustment, but maybe next year we'll have it put in our budget such that we make adjustments for that. We have vacation, okay? Hopefully we are saving each month for our vacation. If we're going to spend, what does it cost to go on vacation? A-L-O-T, okay. Let's say, if I said $3,000, would that be too much? They've never gone on vacation. 5,000's okay? Yeah. Do I hear 6? If we're 6 would be easiest for me. Okay, because there's 12 months. Okay, so that means it tells us how much money we need to put away each month so that after we go from a vacation and we get this big charge card bill, we have the money set aside already every single month in our on our budget so that we can pay for that when the vacation comes. Okay, so just planning ahead is a healthy thing. This can help us to figure out how to do that. Anybody here ever heard of the 10-10-80 rule? I see that hand in the far back. Can you holler it out? Exactly. She said 10 for tithing, 10 for savings, and then you live on the 80%. If we follow this little rule, it will change everything. The person who shared this with me was around 60 years old, and he said, I can retire whenever I want. I said, how is that? He said, because I've been following the 10-10-80 rule. Ever since I was young, I started putting 10% of my income away into savings. And of course, I tithe my 10%. So this rule sets us up for success for the long term. So think it through. Oh, now I have this toothbrush, and you're wondering, why is Bryce putting a toothbrush up there? That's because my friend Ron Emberg, who is now deceased, he came up to me one day. He was a missionary with, which is now in faith. He came up to me one day and he said, Bryce, I figured out how much toothpaste to put on my toothbrush. And I thought, you're nuts. But what I said to him, oh, how interesting. Tell me about it. He said, well, on television, they show the toothbrush, and then they put it all the way across the top of it. And that's how much you're supposed to put in your toothbrush to brush your teeth. But you know what? I spend like $24 a year on toothpaste. How much does that really take to get some good suds and brush your teeth? So he cut it back to half. That was too much. He cut it back to a quarter. He said, I found out you only need to cover about a quarter of it. Therefore, instead of spending $24 a year, I can save $18, only spending $6. This is great. I saved $18 a year. Good for you. There's a book called The Latte Factor, and it goes like this. People go out and buy coffee, and I use the number $5 on here. If we go out to our local coffee shop and we spend $5 each day, well, I always get the $2.30 one, but my wife gets the $8 mocha whatever with sprinkles. And so kind of even. But I was in the San Francisco airport the other day, and $5 was pretty standard. Yeah, so I didn't get any coffee. But let's just, for hypothetical, say it costs only $5 for a cup of coffee that we can make at home for, 25 cents, whatever. We buy it in big bulk at Costco. Okay, and then we grind it ourselves. But anyway, I digress. So we have $5 times 7 days equals $35 times 52 weeks is $1,820 a year. So if you stop going to the coffee shop, you can save $1,820. Can I have a finder's fee from anybody, okay? 10%. 10%. Yes, I see in the back. Oh, that's true. It's less than what the guy saved on, or it's more than what the guy. Okay, you are a mathematical person. Well, now let's say we go out to lunch every day, and on weekends we have maybe pizza or whatever, and it averages out to about $10 a day. Times 7 days, that's $70 a week. Times 52 weeks is $3,640. Okay? It's these little tiny expenses that we have that we don't even think about that make a difference. So if our income is $54,000 a year and we're buying coffee and we're buying a sandwich each day, that's 10% of our income, $5,460. It's the little tiny things that get us that we don't even think about. They sneak up on us. We have in our little workbook here a thing called Finding Money You Never Knew You Had. And it lists a whole lot of little tiny things that we can maybe do to help us to save some money. And there's also a sheet there that looks like what's on the slide, like this, for us to sit down and have a conversation with some people and say, hey, what are some of the little things? Should I go to the dry cleaners so much? The price of dry cleaners has really gone up. Maybe I could, like wash and iron my own shirt. Novel. Washing my car, it costs, how much does it cost to wash your car? $13, $8. Okay, what if I did that myself? Maybe, and of course I would use my neighbor's hose. But it would give me the opportunity to save a little bit here and a little bit there, and pretty soon, a little bit and a little bit really adds up. So what I would like for you to do, if you would do this for me, is if you would break into groups of 4. Oh no, I was going to have to, and I didn't bring a pen. I have pen sucker. Okay, and on this, finding money in your neighborhood, write down some of the things that you can think of that you might be able to do to be able to save just a little bit of money each day, you know? Like when you're buying groceries. Do you have to have the Swanson? Can you get the, what's Safeway have? Kroger? Signature. There you go. Or, you know, could you buy in bulk? I've had people talk about, well, we can't afford a Costco card. So what we do is we join with another couple and we share the card and we go shopping together and then we buy in bulk and then we split it up. I think you have to be pretty good friends to do that. Okay. Also, little things like if we have children and then we have friends who have older children, are our kids willing to wear hand-me-down clothes? Okay, maybe not, but if they are, because you tell them that they are, I did, and I you know what? I made it through life without too many psychological problems. So there's all kinds of little things that we can do. So could you divide into groups of 4 for just a few minutes and try to figure out what is it that we can do? And I'll get us back at, and then if you need to take a potty break, you can do it then too. But divide into groups of 4. I assume you turned off the video. Okay, who came up with the most ideas for how we can save money? How many came up with 10 different ways that we could save money? You have how many? You had 10? What 10 things did you have? Hold it, hold it. How did you lower your cell phone bill? Okay. That's a cheaper service provider. Okay, you're checking the car insurance all the time. It's a really good thing because they keep raising it, and then you switch and it lowers. Sure, shopping around's a great idea. What else? Do what on oil changes? What? Work on your own car? Okay, good. Spending money on gas that you don't need. What was that last one? Oh, fast food. Fast food is a real sucker for us. It's only $5.99 and you get 2 hamburgers. Oh, it's $9.40? Shows what I know. And then you get a milkshake that goes with it, which is $7 or something. Yeah. Okay, they get you some way. But watching fast foods, and it's real easy to sneak in on us. Yes.
Yeah, we had like little tiny breakfast sandwiches, like maybe a month ago, with 2 hash browns and an orange juice, and it cost us like $15.
$15 for a little tiny breakfast at McDonald's. Oh. McChickens. Okay, so if he asks you to come to dinner with him, you don't want to go with him because you're going to be getting a chicken McNugget. What else do you have on your list?
We're cutting down subscriptions to like TVs and different like streaming services. We all pay for unnecessary subscriptions.
Right, it includes everything, and it's this big price. And Jesse has an answer for us on your TV. What's the difference?
Subscriptions are for like
Different streaming services.
Like
I'm
Netflix and different, yeah.
right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we'll cut down on those. And then we spend too much money on diapers because we get fancy diapers. So we're going to get free diapers from the clinic.
Get free diapers from the clinic. Who do you contact at the clinic?
The sister sitting in front of me.
Really? Okay, can I put that on the video, her phone number and everything? So the folks will call in and get free diapers. This is a good deal.
And then finally, Amazon. We spend a lot of money by doing like one-click ordering on Amazon.
One-click ordering on Amazon. Okay. I'm repeating you because they do this video thing.
We have one-click ordering set up, so we just like see what we want and then we press a button and it just ships automatically without having to like go through a checkout process.
So you're able to save money on Amazon by combining your orders and just sending them out once, or it's just a special place you click?
We're gonna save money by not going on Amazon and wasting money on things we don't need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one-click ordering just means you don't have to think about it before you buy it. You can just click and they send it to you.
Oh, isn't it nice?
Instead of having to go through and like put in your card and your information. Just
Okay.
click it, there it's on its way.
Yeah, if anybody has an extra credit card I could borrow for a month or so, I'd really appreciate it. Be real helpful. So, okay, so saving. Okay, so what was it that you, Jesse, had as far as savings on your television?
We were talking about how most
Right, the bundled, the bundle on TV.
We were saying that you could,
Thank you, sir.
we were saying that you could get rid of all that, and we pretty much pay for internet. And then, if you don't want to pay for streaming services, there are streaming services out there that are free, but we do have a few streaming services that we pay for.
Okay.
And, yeah, or you could do like the Roku thing and get free channels on your TV.
What I'm hearing is that you're saying you should stay alert as to what you actually use and just pay for what you actually use instead of buying the whole bundle for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, and if we stop and look at what do we really watch, and then what is it that we're paying for, it may be that we're paying a lot of money for some things that we're not using.
We had Spectrum TV, and they kept bumping it up. Started off at 120 with the full package, telephone, cable, everything else, 120. And then next thing I know, it's all the way up to 156. And I'm thinking, we're hardly watching any of these channels. And so we got rid of Spectrum, and we put Roku on. Roku has literally hundreds of channels for free. So you can get rid of it. And plus, you say, well, how about the local channels? We put a TV antenna up on top of our house, and we get 22 live stations locally just by putting an antenna on top of your house. So you can save all that money that way.
That's really good to know. Absolutely. In the
Come-
back, what do we hear?
Hang on.
Mike will give you a microphone.
Okay. If you have your phone paid up, you can go with a prepaid plan, which starts off at $40 a month. But after being on the service for 9 months, it goes all the way down to $25 a month. And it's unlimited texting and phone calls. It's good service, Verizon.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you get all the service from Verizon, but it's a prepaid plan. So you actually have given your credit card, and it starts off at $40. And then after 9 months of being with them, then it goes down to $25 a month.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm going to pass the microphone because people are watching online here, and that way they can hear.
Wait, how much is Roku? Oh, $20. Okay.
One time, $29. That's pretty nice. Okay, how about non-electronic ways that we can save money?
Oh, well, I was going to go with one more electronic thing.
I don't
When
know.
we moved out to the boonies, we didn't want to pay for, a satellite or something because we couldn't get cable and couldn't get any signal out there. So we just lived without TV for the last 17 years. And you know what? I don't even want to have a TV on now. And so I have backslid to the 40s, and I'm happy with it now. I listen to the radio all day long instead. I get all my news that way. I don't have to surf the web to find out what's going on in the world because I can get news on radio.
As
and
far
Christian
as
radio's
what you're
cool.
talking about not using it, they have these new things. They're called BOOKS.
Yeah, that too. Read
and
the
you
Bible
can go to
a
the
lot more when you
library,
don't have a screen.
yeah, and they'll give them to you, and you use them for a couple of weeks and take them back. It's really entertaining, and this is great.
The other thing that I thought of too is back in my grandmother's day, the phrase was, use it up, wear it out, make do without.
I like that.
And
Sure.
I think that we are going back to times now that we need to really rethink that too.
Right, for a long time, we need to have something new all the time. We were talking the other day about bell bottoms coming back. Okay, things go in cycles. So, and I'm not saying that keep your bell bottoms for 40 years because they're going to come back. But to recognize that, we always don't have to wear the latest and the greatest. Okay, it can be, and also somebody was talking about Goodwill. If you go to some Goodwills, you can get some really nice clothes for almost nothing. So Goodwill and Salvation Army are a real good source to be aware of. Sir, Jesse.
At least here locally, they have really good clothing. Like
The hospice store?
pants for $3, stuff like that. So
Okay.
it's the hospice store, and it's over by Dutch Bros in North Bend. and you can get like pants for like $3. One time there, I got a 3-piece suit for like $18. So
That's pretty nice. Okay. Any other ideas that we came up with?
also, most of the time, if you go there and you purchase like say over $50, you'll get like a discount, like 40 to 50% off. So that's how we got most of our furniture at our house.
Furniture can be so expensive, and if you can find a situation like that, to take advantage of that.
Just to back that up a little bit, we spent like maybe $90 on our furniture for our living room.
Wow.
And then we got a free shelf from Crystal. Thank you, Crystal.
Okay, yeah, it's real easy to spend $90 on a pillow. So, thank you, Mr. Restoration Hardware. Okay, so any other ideas that would be that the group could benefit from? Okay, yes, go ahead.
Well, we already do a lot of these ideas, but one that saved us a lot is giving my husband and my son's haircuts all these years. I do it myself at home, and it saves us a lot. And I also thrift shop and buy things on sale, clothing
Okay.
and other items.
Okay, you said you do his haircuts.
Haircuts at home.
Okay,
Yeah.
it looks professional.
Thank you.
But no, that is, when I was growing up, my mom always cut our hair, or my aunt. You know, and then it was like, I'm going to go spend $8 on a haircut. Are you kidding me? Nowadays, it costs a lot more than. Although I did find a guy who will do it for $20. It takes him like 7 minutes, so he still makes a lot of money. He just has those guys lined up and goes out, and give him the $20. But yeah, it's some of those little things that do make all the difference as they accumulate up. And if we're struggling financially and we're trying to pay off our debts, and we think through, wait a minute, where are we spending our money? How can we cut back a little bit here and there and everywhere? Then we all of a sudden find that we have a pot of gold that we didn't know that we had. So that's the whole principles that we want. And go out to dinner sometime at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and talk with your friends about how you can save some money and, write them on your list. Okay, invite them over. Oh, I did this with a group of missionaries. Actually, I did it with several groups of missionaries, and each one of them said, at dinner time, do visitation. So you show up at people's house and say, just came over to visit. And well, come on in and have dinner with us. Okay. So if he shows up at your house on Monday, I'm in trouble. Okay. One last thing in the back, and then we'll move on to our next subject.
Okay, so we have somebody whose wife was a grocery store employee for years, and he was saying that what is at eye level is the highest price item when you go to the store. Milk is in the back because they want you to make your way through an aisle and buy things along the way.
Yes.
And milk is actually a lost leader. They don't make any money off milk, but it's a way to get you to come in. And what was the other thing? Oh, and I won't say who this is, but somebody discovered that, especially since they were in Hawaii where food is expensive, roadkill food is something that's great in a tropical climate when you can just pick up bananas off the side of the road and eat them. Things.
Do you know in Oregon, if you accidentally hit a deer, you can take it.
Oh, you can?
So they don't
Okay.
waste the meat.
So,
one thing I was going to say, though,
Yes, sir.
is shopping is almost a lost art. So like you talked about haircuts or whatever, if we shop around, then you can find where the best deal is. Coupons. You can look for coupons, but not just coupons to buy, but coupons on the items that you do buy and stuff like that.
Right. If you're going to buy it anyway, then why not shop around a little bit? And tomorrow we'll have a little section on groceries that we'll kind of talk through on what's a systematic way of going through to make the determination that we got the best deal this week as far as groceries are concerned. So let's move on to another subject, and that is when it comes to the management of our bills. Oops, I kept going. Here we go. Here we go. Stop. Okay, now I'll push it once more. There we go. When it comes to management of our bills, one church person should be in charge of each of the bills that come into our house. I was talking with a young couple recently, and the guy said, we both pay the bills. What happens is they come in, and we just kind of stack them up on the counter, and then when somebody gets some time, then they pay them. Well, guess what? Sometimes bills get missed that way. If we can assign somebody to each of the bill, I'll pay the electric bill, I'll pay the mortgage, I'll pay for anything that has to do with the house, another person, I'll pay for the car. Making sure that there is an owner for each of the bills that comes in, then we can hold one another accountable, and as opposed to saying, you didn't pay the bill last month. Well, I thought you were going to pay the bill. Well, we have a bill, it comes in, it has an owner, it gets paid. Both parties should know how to pay the bill also. A friend of my wife, her sister passed away. She always paid the bills. Her husband didn't know anything about the finances. He didn't even know what bank they used. So he just lost his wife, and now he has this financial mess. He doesn't know the passwords, where they're located, anything. So she had to go down from Connecticut to Pennsylvania and spend a few weeks with him trying to figure out the basics. If something bad happens, we both need to know how to pay the bills so that it all gets taken care of. And also, should we have one bank account or two? What do you think? This couple down here says one. Anybody else think that you should have, each of you have your own? What do you think? Three. Let's hear 3 checking accounts, or, yeah. Okay. Well, that's more complicated than I can comprehend. Okay. The bottom line, though, that I have for you is figure out what works for you. In some family, if one person's always paying certain bills, then maybe all of the, a certain amount of money should be designated to that particular person so they can pay the bills. If another person has another set of bills, then maybe they can have their own account. You both have your names on both accounts. So there's a complete transparency, and if something happens to one of the people, you're okay. Now, some people also have different personalities. And so if you're sharing the same bank account and one person wants it down to the very penny to make sure everything's balanced, and the other person kind of rounds off to the nearest 20, that personality difference can be really bad. But if you think alike, then you can have one. But we need to think through the process. Why are we doing what we're doing? And are all our bills going to be able to be paid? Nothing's going to slip through. And you brought up a really good point, and that is when we put together a budget, we can be really strict on our budget. But let me digress. You ever lose a lot of weight? How did you lose all that weight? You were real systematic, and every day you did what you could until you reached the breaking point, and then you said, I've had it with this. So I lost 30 pounds. The way I was able to do this, was a long time ago, the way I was able to do this was I dieted very strict Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and on Saturday I could eat anything I wanted. And therefore I had Saturday to look forward to. When it comes to our budget, we want to make sure that we keep it real strict. But each person should have kind of a slush fund whereby they can spend it on whatever they want. It could be $5 based upon your income, or it could be $100. Doesn't matter. But it's money that you can just spend on yourself whenever you want. That helps us to be able to, because of the way that we think, helps us to be able to put up with the stricter part. So thank you very much. That's a very good insight. Who knows what the envelope method is? Everybody seems to know what the envelope method is. Somebody, Mike, do you have a microphone? Good. Tell us what the envelope method is.
All right, you can put the different bills that are going to come in that you've got to pay, and you put the cash in the envelopes so that you can store the amount of money until it's time to pay it.
Okay, and so you've stored the money in there, and then you have like $100 in the envelope for groceries, and then you use it all up, then what do you do?
You go on a diet.
All right.
No, actually, you should be setting a little money aside as well. Should have an envelope for a little extra stuff,
Okay, just
Little
an
savings.
emergency envelope.
an emergency savings.
Yeah, I was with my daughter who knows all about envelopes, and she was pulling money out of an envelope, and then she said, "Oops, we don't have enough money to do that." So she reached into another envelope and pulled it out of there, and she said, "I guess we won't be buying any clothes this month," which is fine, but use the envelope method to your advantage, but it helps to make sure that we don't spend more than what we have, because when all the envelopes are empty, then we do go on a diet, or as Mike told me earlier, I go and do visitation. What were you saying?
I saw like this little binder thing like on TikTok where somebody had like this little book. Thank you. So I watched TikTok probably a little bit too much, but anyway, I saw this one woman. She had like this binder that had like different like zip up like little pouches in there, and for like clothes and stuff, or if she wanted to buy, or she needed like a new pair of shoes or like work clothes or whatever, she just like set up like a budget, and she would put like her spare change or spare cash that she had and put it in there, and then by the end of the year or by the end of the month, whatever her budget thing looked like, she was able to pull that out and get whatever she needed.
Okay, that's really good. One of the things that a friend of mine does is at the end of the day, if she goes through her purse and any $1 bills that she has, she puts them all over in a little container, and then when it comes to vacation time, a dollar here, a dollar there, it adds up, and she'll have a lot of money that she can use for her vacation. I think she's upped it to $5 though, but so she has nicer vacations. But the envelope method, it really does work. It's simple. It's not sophisticated, but it works. So, and you can go online. There's all of these budgetary instruments online that you can connect to your bank account, so it shows when the money comes in, and then it will show from your credit card where you're spending your money. If you're a techie kind of person, that works. I'm not techie, so I'll use the envelope. Okay? Become your own banker. This is something that's really important for us to do. And that is, what is a bank? It's a place where we go and we take our money and we put it in, right? And then when we want to borrow some money, we reach into the bank and we pull it out. So if we become our own banker, then what we can do is we can take initially $1,000. Our initial goal is to put $1,000 into either a special banking account or into an envelope or under our mattress or someplace, but we have $1,000, so if an emergency comes up, we can reach in there and grab it out, okay? So we're our own banker because we deposited it to ourselves, and then when we need to withdraw it, we can withdraw it. There's all these little tiny things that come up, like my washing machine died recently, okay? So I asked the guy to come in and repair it, and it would cost more to repair it than to replace it. So we have our money set aside. We can just reach in, borrow the money. I don't have to go to the charge card and put it on the charge card or if I do put it on the charge card, I can pay it off as soon as the bill comes because I have $1,000 set aside to take care of it. Our next goal is to have 3 to 6 months spendable income. That is, as we look at our budget, the amount of money we spend each month, we put that much into the bank. So we started out with 1,000, then we end up with 3 to 6 months. Why would we do that? I was sitting in my office minding my own business, working for an organization I thought I'd just finished life out with, and the boss came in and said, Bryce, I know how we can save some money. I said, how's that? He said, I'm letting you go. How nice. However, I had 3 to 6 months money in the bank. I knew my family was going to be just fine because I had some time to look for a job. So to set ourselves up so that if the worst case scenario happens to us, we'll be okay, that's a smart thing to do. So, and also there's sometimes some big time emergencies where we need, when the washer goes out, the dryer goes out, the dishwasher goes out, and an air conditioning and heating system all go out at the same time. To have some money set aside so we can take care of those, that keeps us set up as far as emergencies are concerned. So we want to borrow from ourselves instead of borrowing from the bank. When we borrow from the bank, they're going to charge us 20% or more. Now, you're willing, or you're able, if you want, to charge yourself interest when you borrow from yourself. Okay, but you don't have to, but it puts you in a real good thing. So we need to save also for future expenses. When we pay off our automobile, we should continue to make payments. Only now we're making payments to ourselves. So we're putting money aside, and I have a series of, with our bank, you can have a whole bunch of little accounts. And so I have one that says automobile. And so each month I put money into my automobile. Now I have a 2015 car, so it's been paid off for a long time. And so I'm able to accumulate. So hopefully when it comes time, next time for me to buy a car, I'll have enough money in there so that I can just, pay cash for it. That's a good thing. So just once you do it, and just because you get your car paid off doesn't mean you should buy another one. Okay? Wait until it wears out. At the end of life, you're not going to say, every 2 years I was able to get a new S-Class Mercedes. You won't really care, okay? So think about how important is the automobile to you. Okay. Next one, future savings is a new home, 20% down. For those people who are thinking that maybe someday they want to move into a home, that can be a lot of money, okay? So, to have $100,000, you can buy so you can buy a $500,000 house. How are you going to save for that $100,000? You have to kind of think that through. And we'll talk about cars later. And then saving for vacations and for Christmas. I think we talked about that earlier. If we're going to spend $600 on Christmas this year, we should be putting $50 a month away in an envelope or someplace so that we'll have the money so that when January comes, we're not overwhelmed with the bills. Okay, 5 ways to obtain financial independence. Does anybody here want to become financially independent anytime? I see 1 hand, 2 hands, 3, 4. Okay. If you do that, then you can retire. Okay. So, how do we do that? Number 1 is to live within your budget. Ron Ballou wrote a book on this, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. But live within your budget. So we know then that we're able to put away the 10% of our income as a result of our behaviors because that's part of our budget. So we live within our budget. We don't overspend. Number 2, we get out of debt. And we'll talk later on about a system tomorrow, a system on whereby we can work ourselves out of debt. In a realistic way. Number 3 is increase your giving. John Templeton, who had the Templeton Trust, he was worth millions of dollars, and he was a Christian man, and he said, if you increase your giving, it changes your mentality and sets you up with the kind of discipline that you need so that you can make wiser financial decisions. And then number 4 is to become your own banker. And we just talked about how to become your own banker. And then number 5 is invest for the future. So we're out of debt. We're living within our budget. and if we need to borrow anything, we borrow from ourselves. Now it's time for us to invest for the future. Proverbs 21:20 says, "Precious treasures and oil are a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it all." So if you find yourself spending all of the money that comes into your family each month, does that mean that you are a wise person? I'm just asking. Okay. Think about that for a minute. Okay. Proverbs 6:6-8 says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores provisions in the summer and gathers its food in the harvest." What it's saying is it's wise to put away to now for the future. We're supposed to save for a famine. What's a famine? Well, that's when you have outgo and no income. And for those of you who are my age, that means that's what retirement is all about. Okay, we have outgo, but where's our income going to be coming from? So how do we invest for the future? Number one, we need to be systematic in doing it. Not doing it, we need to do it over a long period of time. So if we have opportunity to invest in a 401k through our employer, anybody here able to do that, the 401k, or am I talking to a different group of people? Some people can? Okay. You're just kind of half up. Okay. But if we each month can put some money away into our investments or into a 401k, if you have a matching 401k, the typical one, if you put in 3%, your employer will put in 3%. Okay, so if you don't put in your 3%, you're giving away 3% of your income each month. So, and that can, add up to over a period of years to a lot of money. So systematically, every month, put money away for investments in the future, and that includes the retirement 401k. And then we need to consider the difference between risk and safety. If you put your money in risky areas, the opportunity for getting more money back is higher. The opportunity to lose is higher. So you have to figure out, when I went to the person who now manages my little finances, he gave me a test, and he asked me all these questions, and then he came back and said, "Well, you're not a very risky person. You're really conservative." I said, "Yeah, I am. I don't want to lose my principal." But to know whether or not we are at risk adverse, like I am, or you're somebody that doesn't care. Okay, if you're real young and you invest in some risky things and you lose a lot, you have the rest of your life to be able to make that up. If you have to be a little older and you're thinking, "I'm going to retire in 3 years," probably you shouldn't be in risky things because your opportunity to turn that around is so short, it might make it very, very impractical. So we need to know what our risk tolerance is and consider our age as we're investing in various areas. Do we want to have a broker or do we want to have mutual funds? Initially, probably mutual funds, because usually they want you to have at least $500,000 before they'll let a broker will work with you. But with mutual funds, there's ones like Vanguard, which follow the stock market. And it's really, you can go in and you can choose which fund you want to put your money in. It'll show you how much increase or decrease it's had over the last year, over the last 3 years, over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years. You can say, "Hey, this is a good match for me." Or it could be that you want to balance it out so you have some international funds and some small stocks and some large stocks. It's nice to have things balanced because things go in cycles in the stock market. Unfortunately, it was like this 2 years ago, and now it's like this. I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and they said, "Yeah, I lost $1 million this year." And it was like, oh, that hurts so much. But I wish I could lose $1 million. But the fact is, the stock market goes up and down, and so just to know that it's risky when we're doing that, whether or not we do mutual funds and we put a little bit in each month. And if we join something like Vanguard, and I do own a little bit of Vanguard, if we put some money in Vanguard, they do have counselors that'll help talk you through the process so that you are in a situation that best fits you, your situation, and your personality. And I think I mentioned that diversification is an important thing. So we're not all just in one kind of stock, because one kind of stock will be up and bonds will be down, and then bonds will be up and then stocks will be down. I recently learned about a thing called I-bonds. And with I-bonds, they're government-backed. And you go online and you send them your money. And you can send them $10,000 a year per person. And right now it's at 9% interest. That's a lot of money for investments. Unfortunately, they limit it to $10,000 a year, but it is backed by the government. And so it's a healthy investment for some of us who are real conservative. But if you just keep alert to and talk with your friends, what are some various kinds of investments that I can be involved with, we can get some good ideas. Also, we need to be thinking about what's our retirement lifestyle going to be like. Do we want to maintain the same lifestyle that we have right now? Or are we going to be cutting back? Or are we going to be moving forward? There's kind of a cyclical part of this. Typically, people spend a lot of money between the ages of when they first retire and then for the next 10 years. And then they stay at home and sit on the high knees because they have to go to the doctor and they don't want to be too far from the doctor. So they don't spend very much money. So keeping that part of what life is all about in mind is a helpful thing. So what is our retirement lifestyle? How much money do I need to have set aside so I can pull out of that plus my Social Security so that I can have the income that I need? It's all about cash flow. How much am I going to, and also safety. My son and I were talking the other day, and he said, Dad, how much money do you have? I said, well, why do you ask that? He said, well, you're like retired, and I don't want you like moving in with me. Inflation is only at 8.5%. So with inflation being at 8.5%, and let's say we did that for 3 years, what would that equal? 25% of your buying power is gone away. How are we going to address that? So if we're going to figure that we want to retire soon, or we are retired, we're going to lose 25% over a 3-year period. That's significant. Okay. My neighborhood, one of my pastors said, Bryce, it's not 8.5% in Scottsdale. It's 16% in Scottsdale. I'm going, whoa, in 3 years, I'm, going to really be reaching into my savings to help maintain the same lifestyle that I have now. So that's a reality that we all have to address. And as we're looking for money that we never knew we had, we're going to have to start digging into that pile real deep because of the inflation factor. But that's really important. Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, basic principles for investment. Pay yourself first. I remember working for a person who came into my office and she said, Bryce, I've learned how to pay myself first. I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I'm always worrying about money, and I've decided that on my paycheck, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take money out and put it in the bank in savings. I go, okay. She said, I'm paying myself first. I'm so excited. Well, I'm happy for you too, Patty. But I thought that was pretty basic. But the idea is I'm going to make sure that, first of all, I'm taking that 10% out. Next is establish good habits. That is systematically making sure that we're saving, which is number 3, systematically saving for retirement, and then diversify, which we talked about in just a minute, and then get advice. Talk to wise people that you know who are in the business or that you know have learned how to manage their money so that they're sitting in a good place, and just talk with one another. And read books on it and listen on television to the appropriate people. Okay. I love those advertisements when they say, you should invest in silver. Because if you invest in silver and it goes up to where it used to be, you'll be rich. Well, what happened between here and here? Okay, so we need to make sure that we're careful with who we listen to and get advice from a variety of people. Oops. Come here, you. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you don't want to move in with your children, so try not to outlive your money. And with this recent downturn, I called my guy and I said, do I need to go back to work? And he said, no, you still won't outlive your money, probably. But, with the economy going the way that it is, it can be real scary. So annual investment chart. One of the handouts that you have is this annual investment chart. And you wanted to know how much money you need to put away each month in order to become a millionaire, because you need $1 million in order to retire, correct? And let's say you're going to retire. Who's going to retire in 40 years? In 40 years, are you going to retire? Hopefully? Okay. Based upon this chart, let's say you wanted to retire in 40 years. I can do 20 if you want, but the number's higher. What you do with this is you follow the instructions here, which tell you that over the since 1926 or so up until now, the average return on investment's been around 10%. Okay, recently it hasn't been quite as high, but it's been around 10%. So if you look at here and you want to retire in 40 years, on table A4, you go down to 40. And then if it's at 10%, you go over here where it says 442. You divide the 442 into $1 million, and that means that you need to save $2,280 a year in order to retire. That's $188.28 a month if you want to be able to retire in 40 years with $1 million. $1 million will probably be worth like $100,000 today. I don't know. So you might want to be a little bit more aggressive, and if you do that, then you would go down to the year 20 over to 10%, and you would divide it by 57.275, which equals $17,400 a year, or $1,454 a year if you want to have a income of, or you want to have a nest egg of $1 million in 20 years. So this little chart just kind of a wake-up call to us to say, wait a minute, yeah, I'll be able to retire someday, but what's that going to look like? Now, some people have defined benefit programs whereby you work for your employer for 30 years and then they take care of you for the rest of your life. Chances are nobody in this room is able to be in that kind of a situation. That's really a killer for businesses, very expensive. So they put together the 401 matching programs instead, and then that puts them in a much better place. So it's really up to us to look at what's Social Security right now, where do I think it will be then, and then what else do I need to add to it so that I have the cash flow that I need so I can be in a good place. What's the next slide? Okay, plans fail for the lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. I really encourage you to look at or to talk with people about this and have serious conversations, read about it. Some of us don't like to talk about this kind of stuff because we're just not comfortable with it. But sometimes we have to get uncomfortable to be able to be in a good situation in the years ahead. Okay, we won't go into this one. Okay, do you have any questions that, remember, if I don't know the answer, I'll make something up, okay?
Yeah, I did want to bring up one thing. One of the things that I teach young people is if they have a credit card, you don't put anything more on it than you can pay at the end of the month. Now, you mentioned the 27% interest in passing, but would you explain what happens? We've had families before, didn't have enough money to pay their bills, and they just kept putting it on the credit card, putting it on the credit card. What happens with 27%
You
interest?
go into a deep, deep, deep hole. And it just gets worse and worse, and the stress in the family is terrible. So tomorrow we'll talk about how to get out of debt, and we'll also talk about credit cards and how to, and your whole thing is, what I say is, pay off your credit card at the end of the month. If you can't pay it off, then you can't use it next month. Okay, just a rule of thumb. Because the interest rate, 27% interest, is a massive amount of money that you're giving to somebody. That's why you want to become your own banker. If you get in a bad situation, you can borrow from yourself and then pay it back. But if you're paying the bank 20% or more interest, you're just going to get deeper and deeper and deeper, and that credit card bill just gets huge. So then you have to, but if you transfer it over to another credit card like Costco, then you get money back. And you can buy how many credit cards should you have? Like 6 or 7, right? And you just kind of transfer from one to the next because you get 30 days free. Okay, thank you. I can tell you're awake. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to have credit cards at all. If you have 1 or 2 credit cards, that's good. That's good for emergencies. Or actually, I use it a lot, even for small expenses, because I know I'm going to be able to pay it off at the end of the month. And it keeps a record of where I spent my money. So it's a really nice thing. But what Larry Burkett used to say is that you will probably spend 30% more if you use a credit card than if you use cash, because it hurts to use cash and credit cards so easy to use. So I thought that was interesting.
One of the things I've done that has worked out well for establishing credit is you've got to be really disciplined, but you know you're going to have a gasoline bill every month. If you put that on the card every month and keep it just to that, then you're establishing your credit line for down the house, buying a house, and so forth.
Sure.
But you pay it off month after month after month.
Yeah, that's very wise. Very wise. Any other? Yes, sir.
Where I work, we have a specific retirement plan, but then they also offer, in lieu of like a 401k, basically an investment opportunity, an investment package, and you can do it conservatively or you can do it risky, depending on what age you want to retire, et cetera, kind of that, like the investment worksheet that you showed. My stance has always been, I've always been really confused about, or really hesitant to invest in the stocks because I always felt like it was gambling. I always felt like even a conservative approach, you're still gambling on what you're putting in, and to put in 30 years worth of investment into the stocks, and we see what's happening right now, and I go and I retire and I lose that $1 million that I worked my whole life to save. So how do you approach it from that mindset?
Okay, stocks are what we call equities, and that means you own part of that company. Okay, so if you have put money into even a mutual fund, they are buying parts of companies, and when the companies go up, you have more value. When the company's value goes down, then you have less money. And there is a risk involved with that, and that's why we want to have a balancing act. So you invest in different kinds of companies, so international companies, big stock or big companies that have been around forever, and then some smaller companies. So stocks are not necessarily a bad thing unless all of the economy completely we go into a recession, and you know we would never go into a recession as a country, right? Then there's also bonds that you can buy, and when you buy a bond, and that's why I mentioned the I bonds, they are more secure because they are a guarantee that you'll make a certain amount of money. Now, annuities can cost a little bit of money, but you can buy an annuity in which it will say the value will grow by as much as 10% a year. but it won't go any more than 10% a year. It could also lose more than 10%, but it won't lose more than 10%. So it's kind of a safe situation. They're actually taking a risk. The risk that you're taking is that you can't go above the 10% as far as your return on investment. So, but then you have the safety of knowing that you're not going to lose, 30% or 40%. So there's different instruments that you can use that can help put you in a safe place. But yeah, stocks have advantages and they have disadvantages. And every instrument has advantages and disadvantages. And to be just to be aware of what they are. And there's all kinds of articles that you can read online. And you know if it's online, it's real. And with discrimination, you can read the articles and see what they say and see what fits you and what fits your personality. And it sounds like your personality is similar to mine in that I like to be really conservative. And I don't mind missing out on a little bit of opportunity because I might not, because as a result, the flip side of that is I won't have the opportunity to lose either. I don't want to lose. Yes.
I've heard about biblically responsible companies to invest in for the stock market.
Yes.
And I've heard of a couple of different sources for that. And I understand the whole issue he was just talking about. But what about that aspect of it too? It sounds like a great idea if you're willing to invest in stocks.
It's my understanding that those companies that use a biblical foundation for their investments tend to be more resilient than those that are more risk-taking. But they don't invest in things that conservative evangelicals don't support. So, yeah. So they have to be ethically sound businesses. So it just makes up their portfolio, and to have that as a part of your total portfolio, I wouldn't put all of my money in any one instrument, but to have it at a certain percentage in that kind of a fund would be a healthy thing, I would think.
Any questions?
Yes. For unexpected car repairs? Okay, for unexpected car repairs, the amount of money, do you drive a Bentley or a Rolls Royce?
A lowly BMW, it's 2005 though.
A 2005 BMW. I used to have a
But I just,
2004 BMW.
Last week, I just paid $350 to get the seat belt replaced. I mean, that was unexpected.
Right. Yeah, there are, depend, yeah. Even when you have a really good built car, they're still going to fall apart. And to be able to put at least 10% of what you would have had for your monthly payment into setting it aside for your car, that's a good thing. And what was the number that we have here for your automobile payment? I forgot.
Well, it's paid off long ago, so I don't have a car payment.
Yeah, I don't know the appropriate money for that, but that's why you have your $1,000 put away and your 3 to 6 months income put away, is so that you, when those expenses do come up for car repair. And also, if you look at what your recommended intervals for taking your car in to have it inspected and all, if you can check with the dealer and say, all right, based upon my 7 Series BMW, lower, 3 Series, 5 Series. Okay, anyway, your X5, when you don't know, they will tell you what the schedule is going to be, and they can also tell you approximately what it's going to cost when you take it in. And then, that can help as far as making the determination. But the unexpected things like seat belts, just you can draw that out of your 3 to 6 months and then pay yourself back. Okay, you're a wonderful group of people. Thank you very much. It's 6:01, so we went over. Next time, we'll talk about how to get out of debt, and we'll talk through the various things such as groceries and cars and things like that, how we can save money on those things. And also, you did see the one slide. We'll talk just briefly about how to be able to pass on your inheritance without paying the inheritance tax. It's a real simple little process that you can do. Costs some money, though. But anyways, different things that you can do just to kind of finish out our budget. So I'll be standing around for a while. Let me know if you have any questions. And as I said before, if I don't know the answer, I'll make something up. Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, well, let's go ahead and close in prayer tonight. I appreciate you guys coming out. It's been a long day, good information, and tomorrow's gonna add a whole bunch more good information. Father, thank you for this day that we've had. Lord, that this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And Lord, we just love you, and we express that love to you tonight. I pray as we head home that we'd sleep soundly, Lord, and think about the things that we've heard today, and then tomorrow that we'd come back with our questions, that we would get some answers in some of these areas that we've wrestled with. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.